Hey everyone, today I want to pull back the curtain on something that doesn't get talked about enough, how people in real America, especially in places like Louisiana, actually stay informed. And trust me, the numbers just might shock you if you're used to the DC echo chamber. Before I jump in, do me a quick favor, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. That way, you'll never miss one of my deep dives into the real stories behind the headlines. Now, let's be real for a second. If you spend much time in Washington, D.C., you know there's this idea floating around that folks outside the Beltway are kind of checked out, that they don't really follow the news or keep up with what's happening. But is that actually true? I wanted to find out for myself. So I ran a poll in my home state of Louisiana to see just how closely people are paying attention. The results? About 68% of Louisiana residents say they follow the news every single day. That's right, every day. Another 23.5% check in a few times a week. Only about 6% say they rarely or never pay attention. So the next time someone in DC tells you people just don't know what's going on, remember, that's just not what the data says. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Where are people actually getting their news? TV still leads the pack, with 39% relying on cable and another 21% sticking with broadcast news. Think local and national evening or morning shows. That's 6 out of 10 folks glued to the tube for their updates, but TV isn't the whole picture. About 27% of people in Louisiana now get their news online. That splits up into media. People scrolling news websites on computers, teens using smartphones for news, 12.6% from social media like Facebook and Twitter, 5% from YouTube, and almost 9% from news aggregators like Google News or Apple News. Radio still has a place, grabbing 7% of the audience, and newspapers just 4%. It's wild how much that's changed over the years. If you're as surprised by these trends as I was, now's a good time to subscribe. Because I break down real stats like this all the time, and you won't want to miss what's next. So what's the big takeaway? People in Louisiana, and let's be honest, probably most of America, are way more informed than a lot of folks in Washington give them credit for. 70% are on top of the news every single day, and their habits are evolving just like the technology around them. It's a wake-up call for anyone who thinks the real America isn't paying attention. People are engaged, they're adapting, and the way they stay informed is changing fast. So, if you found this breakdown useful, smash that like button and subscribe to keep up with the real stories behind the numbers. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's your go-to way to get the news? I want to know. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you, Mr. President. With me today, Mr. President, colleagues from my office, Mr. Christian Ami. I want to talk for a few minutes, Mr. President, about America, about Washington, D.C., and about Louisiana. Every time I leave Washington, D.C., and go back home to America, I am reminded of how parochial Washington, D.C. can be, how removed it can be, how unaware it can be. We often hear people in the city, where our capital sits, say, well, if the American people just don't understand. American people, you often hear, just don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what we know. They don't read the news. They don't keep up like we do. So recently, Mr. President, I conducted a poll to test that point of view. And some were surprised with the results of the poll. I was not. One of the questions I asked in the poll of the people in Louisiana is how frequently would you say they follow the news? About 70% of my people in Louisiana, Mr. President, follow the news every single day. Actually, it's 67.8%. Some of my colleagues back home were surprised by that. I was not. 23.5% said a few times a week, and only 6.4% of my people don't consult the news, read the news very often. I also, out of curiosity, tested, polled where my people were receiving their news. 39% of the people in Louisiana, 70% of whom follow the news every single day, get their news from cable TV. Another 21.1% get their news from morning and evening broadcast television, not cable, local television news and national television news. So I guess from one point of view, and I think the numbers bear this out, in Louisiana, in terms of a source of news, television is king. Television is king. 70%, or rather 60% of my people, most of whom follow the news every single day, get their news either from cable TV, from the national evening and morning news, and from local television, evening and morning news. 27% of my people get their news primarily from the internet. To break that down, about 12.6% from social media apps, Facebook, Twitter, 4.7, almost 5% from YouTube, another 9.1% from Apple News, Google News, and those sorts of sites on the internet. So television news, both national and also particularly local, is king in Louisiana, with 60% of the people saying that's my go-to news source. But the internet is also a substantial factor at 27%. 27% of my people, 70% of whom read the news every day, get their news from the internet. Radio news is also important in my state. 7% of my people and change listen to radio news as their primary source of news. And coming in last, consistent with national trends, only 4% of my people receive their news today from newspapers. How the world has changed. I just found these numbers to be interesting, Mr. President. The source of news for most of my people was interesting to me, but I was very, very pleased to find that 70% of my people in Louisiana read the news every single day. And in most cases, they get it from television, but also the internet and radio as well. Sometimes we get it wrong in Washington, Mr. President, in terms of our perceptions of what's going on in the real America. And with that, Mr. President, I suggest the absence of, no, I don't. I see you, the lady here, Mr. President, shaking her hand. I can't do that. What would you like me to do? Oh, we're automatically adjourned when I'm done, huh? Well, I'm done, so we're adjourned. So you can bang the gavel, Mr. President.
We stand adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.